all familiar with the concept of adjustments. So adjustments happens the end of the current financial year. And I taught you with adjustments, any accrued plus and any future minus. You agree with me? Okay. But now I'm going to teach you reversals. And reversals happens the start of the current financial year, meaning the opening balances. Why? If I look, last year, water and electricity had an accrued expense. What does it mean in English? It just means that at the end of that financial year, we received the water and electricity account, but we have not paid it yet. So we included it in the water and electricity expense, but it still needs to be paid. So in other words, if I look at my water and electricity for year 1, there was the balance, there was the accrued expense, and that gave me the profit and loss, my real expense, right? This is what I paid, this is my expense. Then I drew up an accrued expense T account, which was a liability of, and in this case, 21,400. So what does accrued expense mean? It means it's an outstanding expense. It's an amount still payable. You agree with me? So now I get to year 2, the current year. This was 2014, the end of 2014. Now I'm at the end of 2015. So again, I've got a water and electricity expense. How much is my water and electricity expense? I look here, I see 412, 400. So I put in 412, 400. This is the total amount I paid this year. Okay. But I remember, you know what? I had an accrued expense for last year. So meaning, I also paid this in 2015. Does it make sense? Because if I get my account today and I don't pay it, I'm going to pay it tomorrow. But now if I'm doing the books, so in normal life nobody cares about that. But in the books, today is the last day of the financial year. Meaning I have not paid it for today, but it still forms part of this year's expense. That's why I show it as part of this year's expense, and I show it as a payable amount. Now I move into the next financial year, right? Which is actually just tomorrow. But what happens now? Now that payable I take back to where it came from. Can you see it now goes to the opposite side? Because if I look at that 412,400, 21,400 isn't for the current financial year. It's an expense I paid for the previous financial year. Do you understand the concept? So in other words, what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, if it's an adjustment, accrued plus. But if it's a reversal, accrued minus. You see that? Because I need to reverse what I did. So last year, I added it to what I paid so that I can get the real expense. This year, I subtracted from what I paid, because it was not part of this year's expense. But I paid it. You guys understand what I do? Let me do it again. I'm going to do it with other amounts so that you guys can see what I mean. So, let's say let's say, here's my water and electricity. I had a balance of 1,000 and I still owed 100. Meaning my real expense is 1,100. Can you see if I look at this? This is my expense. This is my payment. Can you see there's a difference? My expense is everything I use during this financial year to operate. Doesn't mean I've paid all of it. Okay. My payment is solely CRJ, what went through my bank. Okay. So now I have closed off water and electricity. No longer exists. Ne? I closed it off. But I'm sitting with a liability for 100 Rand for water and electricity. I'm sitting with a liability. Why? Because this is a payable amount. Everybody with me? So next year, when I start water and electricity again, I'm going to transfer this back to water and electricity. But can you see, it's going to be on the minus side. Because if I pay now 1,000 Rand, can you see that that whole 1,000 Rand isn't for the current financial year? 100 Rand I paid for last year. 900 Rand I paid for this year. Now let's say I didn't have another accrued expense, then it means my profit and loss for this year is only 900. Can you see I paid 1,000 and 1,000. I paid in total 2,000. But what happened? Here okay. Did I pay 2,000? Yeah, I paid 2,000. But 1,100 is for last year. 900 is for this year. But I didn't necessarily do it in the year of the expense. Does that make sense? Anybody? I'm going to say it. Let's do it at accrued income. I say to you, you have extra classes with me every Monday, and you pay me 100 Rand a month. Okay, so let's do it at T. I'm going to do this is now for you an expense. Okay, so it's class expense. So you need to pay 100 Rand a month, meaning your expense is 1,002 a year. You agree with me? But if I tell you, you only paid 1,000, you made an arrangement with me because you're going to do some waitering over December, so you are only going to pay me next year. Can you see that I have now you have an accrued expense of 200. So now if I go, accrued expense is going to be a liability. Why? Because it's still payable. Next year you continue with your extra classes. But can you see, let's say your class expense, let's say you pay me 300 Rand. Can you see from that 300 Rand, it first needs to cover the 200 you still owe me. And the other 100 would be for this year. So in other words, I want to put that accrued expense, I want to close that off because it's no longer payable, you must pay it. So the first payment you make is to cover the payable from last year. Does that make sense? Everybody fine? So, what do I know? I look at what... Oh, come on. When you listen to the video, at least laugh a bit. If you're too cool to laugh in class at my silly jokes, then at least laugh at home. Eh? So now what do I see here? Water and electricity here has got an accrued expense for last year. But this year, I prepaid. So now you keep in your head. Accrued, ne? Adjustment plus, reversal minus. Future, adjustment minus, reversal plus. And we can even do apparently. So, let's quickly look. Here's my T for water and electricity. Just follow your rules. Plus, minus. So what's the rule? I've got water and electricity from last year accrued. So this is a reversal. So I'm going to write this on the credit side. Okay? Then, I'm going to look. Water and electricity this year prepaid. Future also a minus. Then I'm going to look. What is my water and electricity at this stage? 412, 400. Now can you see how this actually works? Is if I look at my financial years, we are talking 3 financial years here. Ne? Last year, this year, next year. So in this year, I paid 412, 400. Ne? But part of that is 21,400 for last year and 36,800 for next year. So how much did I actually pay for this year? So 412 less what is for last year, less what is for next year. How much was actually for this year? You understand? Okay. So what goes to factory overheads? This is my expense. But do I know that this goes to only factory overheads? No. I first need to go read. Isn't there maybe some other info of ratioing? Because I told you, you always adjust then ratio, ne? Adjust then ratio. So now I figured out that amount is for this year. But, Lesedi, even if it is for this year, it doesn't mean all of it is for the factory. Some of it is maybe admin, some of it is sales and distribution. And vrochies, here they say, the factory uses 70% of the water and electricity. Can you see now? I need to take that amount times 70%. Because when I close it off, ne? When I close it off, I'm going to close it off to factory overheads, admin, sales and distribution. This is 70%, and these two, they don't tell me how much is what. It's going to be 30%. Does that make sense to you? So this is what you do. You do your reversal, your adjustment. You work out your real expense for the year. Then you divide it between the departments. Okay. So let's go back to factory overheads. My T account for factory overheads. Where did you put it? Here we go. So what are you going to write in factory overheads? You're going to say water and electricity is 412, 400 minus 21,400 minus 36,800. And you're going to bracket that times 70. You guys don't fall in the trap of trying to 70% each one of those. You adjust, you work out the true expense, then you ratio. And I've said it now 7 times, and if you listen to the video, you're going to hear it another 7 times. So please, in a test, don't ratio up until you are done with the whole calculation of the expense or the income. Okay, are we ready? So how much goes to water and electricity? 2,4? Okay, now, so we've done water and electricity. The next one I see is rent expense. So rent expense only got a adjustment. It doesn't have a reversal. You see that? So rent expense, they tell me it's 585, ne? And they say I got an accrued expense of 45, meaning I need to add it. Once I have that, I can go look at ratios. Okay? So let's look at ratios. They say rent expense is allocated according to the floor space. So what is the floor space? So can you see? They say factory, 2,000. Other departments, together, 1,002. Okay? So can you see your total is 32. If it's easier for you, scratch out the zeros. Then you work with 32. So which one am I looking for? This one. So I'm going to say 20 over 32. So you'll get marks, exactly the same marks if you say 2,000 over 3,200. 2 over 3.2. Whatever, as long as your ratio gets less in the same relationship. So what is my rent? 0. Yo, I want to rent there. How much? Mr. Matthew? Oh, he moves. He's alive. Anybody? Let over. Did you guys register for PwC?
Yes. They want a CV.
So then you make a CV. You guys, this is not an opportunity you want to miss. If you want to go into the CA route, do not miss this opportunity. And you know what? If your life is too full to make time for that, then maybe you should leave something else rather than that. Yes. Okay, so in your CV, obviously, didn't you do it in your, haven't you done CVs in your, okay. Seeing here, is it going? Yes. Okay, so the next one I see is salary and wages. Remember, we already did that one. And here's insurance. And can you see insurance is last year, meaning it's a reversal. So if I draw a T for insurance, ne? Insurance plus minus has a reversal, prepaid. What did we say? Future reversal plus. So I'm going to put it on the positive side. And it actually makes so much sense. Because this is saying, oh, you know what? I paid it last year. But now, it's the expense for this year. Can you see? So, how much did I pay this year? 78,000. Now I'm going to look. See? 78. Now I'm going to look. Is there anything here that they said about insurance? And they say, yes, we do it 3, 2, 1. So factory is 3, total is 6. Now you can see it's half. No? 3 over 6 is half. So let's do this. So if I add this, so I'm going to do it here, insurance, it's going to be 16 plus 78, just let me finish, times 3 over 6 or 1 over 2, and there's my insurance expense.